Good morning, everybody. Thank you for joining the ACA Small Business Bootcamp and Resource Collective for this Thursday, November 5th. I'm Robert Theobald, the Small Business Ombudsman and Vice President of Small Business Services here at the Arizona Commerce Authority. I want to thank Faith Ritchie, who hosted the last two sessions. We appreciate her stepping in and covering those and filling in while I was out. I had the great opportunity last week to spend some time the day with the SBA administrator, Jovita Carranza, when she was visiting the Phoenix market. And so Faith did a great job filling in on Thursday and then also on Tuesday. So thank you very much, Faith. We want to start by thanking also our community partners. We couldn't do these sessions without them and their expertise. This is just a small sample of the 90 plus community partners that have helped with the bootcamp sessions. The Small Business Bootcamp and Resource Collectives are designed to help small businesses work through this COVID crisis and return stronger than ever. It is a statewide initiative supported by our community partners, and the bootcamps are going to continue through December and into the new year with great content and constantly updating the Resource Collective. So the Small Business Bootcamp website is a great page to visit. Not only do you register for the upcoming sessions on there, you can find all the previous sessions that we've recorded, posted those recordings and the materials that go along with them. So there's 28 weeks worth of material in there that you can access. If you haven't watched them or there's one you want to go back and review, they're on there available for you to go back and review that information. Additionally, on there, you'll find the Resource Collective. And the Resource Collective is all the tools and resources that our community partners have provided to help small businesses work through the COVID crisis, return, open strong, be safe, etc. This is just a small list of some of the guides and resources that are available on the Resource Collective. You have safe retail, guidance for barbershops and cosmetologists, there's construction, restaurants, unemployment insurance, reopening for AZ, for restaurants, etc. Many of these safety guides would be very helpful to go back and review as we see that uptick in cases, in COVID cases that we're seeing. So this is a great resource for your businesses to make sure that your employees and your clients are staying safe. Also, some quick updates. The Economic Injury Disaster Loan is still active if you want to participate in that program. You can find information on that at sba.gov. And additionally, the Federal Reserve has a program called the Main Street Lending Program. And when it started, the minimum amount for that program was $1 million loan. And they've since lowered it multiple times and are down to where for this Main Street Lending Program, they've lowered it to loan amounts of $100,000 and up. So if that's something that you're interested in as far as loan, you can check out the link there at the Federal Reserve. You can also just search Main Street Lending Program. Additionally, if you check out our website, our COVID-19 website for small business, for Arizona Business Resources, we keep that updated constantly with new material as they come about. It's a great resource website to keep on your favorite list. So real quick, ACA has a number of programs that small businesses can leverage. Our small business services can help with navigating the SBA, working with the SBDC, working with SCORE, local banking contacts, etc. Our workforce program can help with employers looking to hire or upskill and train their employees. They have programs that help with that. And then our Arizona Manufacturing Extension Partnership is a great resource for small to medium-sized manufacturers. They can help match your manufacturing needs with COVID needs, emergency planning, consulting, and other items. So they're a great tool as well. Additionally, a lot of people are looking, hey, let's start a side gig, start our own business instead of being reliant on somebody else's business. And so we have our small business checklist. It's a great online interactive tool to help identify the licensing, registration, compliance issues, or not issues, but things that you need to do to get started, both the local, state, and even federal levels. You can find that at azcommerce.com/smallbiz. It is a great tool. Just a quick reminder for the state's COVID-19 information and resource page, arizonatogether.org. Lots of great information can be found there. So as we jump in looking at next week's topics before we get into today's information, we've got mastering your numbers, your company numbers. We got Mike Bull from the SBDC with that. A subtitle we wanted to call that was numbers everywhere. As small business owners, you see lots of numbers, and he's going to help break it down so you understand what numbers you need to look at and how you can use those to help your business. Additionally, we've got how to motivate and incentivize your employees with the experts from Snell and Wilmer's law offices. So we're excited to have that presentation as well. So again, today we have Ben Rushlow. He was on Tuesday with part 1. Today is part 2 of his 2-part series that he's presenting for us. And so, Ben, I'm going to go ahead and turn the time over to you and let you get started.
Excellent. Thank you. Thanks, Robert. Glad you're back today. Feeling a little bit better. Assuming you can hear me and everything coming through. Yeah?
Everything's good.
Cool. So thanks everybody who's back. I guess last time was okay, and we're back together, which is cool. I won't reintroduce myself. This is really meant to be part 2 of the 2-part series. We did the first part Tuesday. If you didn't see that, it's fine. You won't be lost, but probably go back and watch part 1 just to kind of get the website basics and also more information kind of about the foundational concepts like logo design and kind of authenticity. But today we're going to really focus on Google My Business and social media, part 2 and 3 of what I think of as the digital foundation. And we'll go into a bit more deeper agenda in a second. But I wanted to sort of talk about what's turning into election month. And I only, not talking about it in any kind of partisan way, but I love data, right? So for those who are here in the last session, in my other job at Dynatrace, we do a lot of data analytics, and I'm a data geek, which doesn't get you many dates in college. But this is such an interesting map where we look at all these maps that are on TV about, red states and blue states, and the whole state is colored, right? Based on, who's winning. But this is really interesting because this is really a much more useful data analytics map. And again, nothing connected to our topic really. I just thought it was cool. I saw it this morning where it's showing, actual numbers of votes, and it tends to align to population centers, right? And kind of where people are voting. And I just thought it was a cool way of using data, which I happen to love to illustrate what was happening with the vote, and a way to remind us to it'll all work out in the end either way. So let's just recap kind of my goal for this session and last session, hopefully we achieved it, but was really to remove the mystery around digital marketing, get away from all the kind of buzzword terms, all the terms that people can use to sort of confuse us as small business owners, really lessen the intimidation. I kind of wanted to put a slide at the end. I didn't because I have a lot of content off the cover, but that says like, you can do it. Like, hey guys, you got this, right? This is not rocket science. And especially with all of the tools in 2020 to lessen that digital divide that we talked about last time, you guys we can do this, right? It's not as hard as some might make it sound, and also give you a place to start, right? We don't want to necessarily jump to a very advanced topic if we haven't, kind of mastered, or not even mastered, but at least have some proficiency in the basic topic. And my tip, which was in the first one, is if you're working with anybody in digital marketing or anything really, right? And they're confusing you and they can't explain in simple terms what they're doing, how they're going to help, kind of change your business, what the measured results are, I would run, right? A lot of people are out there that I've run into, even in my other careers or personal life, that I think use confusion and buzzwords as a way of proving expertise, which I actually think is sort of the inverse or the opposite. And then the last kind of founding thing is, remember from the first session, digital marketing is really not about technology. It's really about authentic human connection. Of course, we use technology, we use websites, we use Google My Business, we use social media, and you could talk about a lot more to do it, but it's really about authentic human connection. And I think authentic is actually becoming more important as we think about the history of marketing. They have a Mad Men, right? And kind of where marketing started. And it's becoming more and more important, I think. Now people are looking for authentic connections with brands, even big brands, right? But the same thing with small businesses. And I think small businesses are actually uniquely positioned because of our unique story about why we got into business and what's unique about us and our passions to really create an authentic connection with our consumers, potential consumers, to drive our business forward. So I think that's just a good reminder as we get into the topic. So what are we going to talk about today? Google My Business. That will be maybe 25% of what we talk about. The rest will be social media, and particularly kind of how to make it manageable for you as a business owner, right? We don't all want to spend our lives creating social media content for a business, but how do we kind of balance biggest impact, least amount of work, right? And then we'll have some time, hopefully, for Q&As. Throw those in the question box, chat box, wherever you put them. We will tackle them. So just as a reminder, here are what we feel at Scout Collective are the kind of pillars of the digital foundation, right? And everybody needs these. Google My Business, just as a reminder, it's the first point of contact. We'll get right into that in the next slide. It's where people are going to find you a lot of times on their mobile devices, driving around, right? Or obviously on the Google websites as well. Website is more about not static content, but less updated, as frequently. It still needs to be updated, like we talked about. But it's really going to be a place where there is an opportunity for more kind of in-depth information, more of a call to action, right? You want to drive somebody to do something on the site. And then social media, which we'll talk about at the second half of the session, is really about more immediacy, more about building kind of those authentic relationships with your consumers or prospects and creating awareness. And so this is where you should focus. We'll talk at the very end about topics that go beyond this, right? But make sure this is in place first before you sort of get too fancy or too advanced. So Google My Business. This is, I thought, such interesting data. It's maybe a little hard to see. You have to zoom in a bit. But this is the data about how dominant Google is, and maybe we don't all realize this, in our kind of technology, right? So 92% of all search happens through Google, which is nuts thinking about where we were when the internet started. Smartphone operating systems, Android is Google. Android is owned by Google, or developed by Google, I guess. It's somewhat open source, but it's 85% of all smartphones across the world are Android. And 66% of all browsers that are used on the internet are Chrome or Chrome related, actually. And so you can sort of see why Google's important to a business. Understanding what Google's doing, kind of how they relate in digital marketing, how you kind of play nice with them. If you kind of ignore them, it's a bit at your own peril. And it's, to the point where, I don't know if anybody saw this, but the Justice Department actually last 2 weeks ago, they're suing Google for that sort of domination, actually, for a potential monopoly suit. And I don't know where it'll go, and I don't really have an opinion either way. But it just shows you that even the Justice Department is like, wow, Google's a force to be reckoned with in our digital lives, right? And we really need to pay attention to that. So what does that mean for a small business? Well, just to sort of set the stage, what the heck is Google My Business? And Google My Business really shows up two places, right? One is when you're just on Google and you search for a business. I happen to do this pest control in Show Low, right? Just for the heck of it. For those who missed the first session, I'm up in Show Low, Arizona. And this result here, which typically is only showing 3 or 4 results, are basically Google My Business listings. And you can think of this in some ways as the white pages, yellow pages, I guess, of modern times. That's how little I think about white pages or yellow pages, that I kind of mix those up. But this is the listing for the business, and so it shows up there. It also shows up if you go to maps.google.com. Some of us do that, right, to map things on our desktops or laptops, and it also, of course, shows up on mobile. And so this is sort of becoming even more important than search results for websites, right? So this is different than search engine optimization, which is about, if I search for digital marketing, having Scout Collective's website come up in the listings. if I had, expanded the screen, you would see websites way down here. So Google is putting this as a priority for businesses. And it makes sense, right? Some of it's selfish, some of it's not. Part of it is they want you to stay on their site. So they don't really want, which is how they make money, right? Because they sell sponsored ads and other things. So they want to keep you engaged on the Google site so they can monetize, fancy name for, make money off of you. And then also they want to have consistency to help their end consumer, right? So if all that came up when I searched pest control Sholo was a bunch of website links, right? I could have to go through each of those and figure out, well, where is this one located? What if they didn't have their address on their homepage? Oh, I got to go to the About Us map page, or, oh, this one doesn't even have their operating hours. Like, how do I know? I mean, in the case of the exterminator, maybe operating hours isn't as important, but they're trying to bring consistency to the user experience, right? So that when I search for a business, I'm getting as a user, open hours, closing hours, website links, maybe some details about what services are offered, a phone number, obviously a map if there's a physical, or a location on a map if it's a physical business. And so they're doing that as part of Google My Business, which is actually, I think, quite valuable to consumers. And so again, zooming in, this is where you want to show up, right? You want to be number one, or at least in the top 3, and you want to make sure that you have this as a small business. Doesn't matter if you have a physical business or not, right? So you don't have to, like Scout Collective doesn't have a physical office, but we still show up on Google My Business. So you don't have to have a physical location. I think it becomes, obviously super critical if you have a physical location, because you want people to actually come to your location potentially, but you certainly don't have to show up here. So if you dive even further, you can start to see, additional locations, right? They show you more, but then they kind of open up this like mini website. I almost think of Google My Business as a mini website. So it has some of the same kind of call to action opportunities, right? It has some details about your business, can have videos, can have photos. We'll talk a little bit more about that in a second, but it's still within the Google environment. It doesn't require anything on your end, right? You don't have to sort of create a special little site. They're actually doing it with you, but on their kind of infrastructure on their end. And so you can see here, you got reviews and pictures, and I don't know if that's a picture of a skunk in a cage. So yeah, it's up in Sholo. It's cool. And on mobile, I would say it's even more important, right? Because on mobile, we've all done this, right? You're looking for a restaurant. You're looking for, hey, I got to find a dry cleaner close to me or something. And, comes up, knows where you are based on your mobile device, and then can give you directions. You can call, you can navigate, and all this stuff happens in, very, very quickly, right? And so Google My Business will cover all of these use cases. You don't have to set up a separate mobile thing, a separate maps thing, a separate, desktop thing. Being part of Google My Business, which we'll talk about how we do it in a second, will give you kind of this exposure, right? Now, in terms of where you rank, that has a lot to do with completeness of your listing, reviews. In some cases, it's obviously geolocation. Like if someone's downtown in Phoenix and they're looking for a dry cleaner, and you're out in the West Valley, you're not going to come in that case, right? So a bit of it is sort of a mix of things you can control and things you can't control. But certainly, just as a foundation, making sure you own that, claim it. We'll talk about how to do that. Update it. It's accurate. It's linked. That's really, really important. So how do you actually do this, right? And really, there's 2 paths for all of you if you haven't done this, right? One is your business doesn't exist. So with Scout Collective, there wasn't a previous Scout Collective, right? I didn't take over the business from somebody else. It wasn't at a physical location that we took over. So I didn't have an existing business to claim. I actually created a business, right? So we created a new listing. For some people, though, I think it's probably less, for maybe the folks on the phone, I don't know. Your business might already show up because either there was a previous owner, Google has populated some data for you because it's a physical location that they know about, and you haven't claimed it, right? So as a business owner, you don't own that listing. So there's 2 paths. And so first of all is understanding which path it is, and it's pretty easy, like search your business, and if it comes up and you don't own it, then you need to claim it. If it doesn't come up, then you need to create it, right? So that's step 1. Step 2 is create an account on the Google Business site, and I'll show a link in a second. And by the way, all these links are active, or should be, in the deck or the presentation we'll send out afterwards or post afterwards on the ACA site. So you can check it out. So number 2 is just create an account, super simple, right? And number 3 is verify your business. And this is where it gets wonky a bit for people. And I have this postcard here, little icon, because that's the way that most people will verify your business. If you've done it, you understand it, right? So some businesses are given the opportunity to use email or phone, but most are required to have Google, believe it or not, in 2020, send you a postcard in the mail that might take a couple weeks to your physical address. Even if you have to give a physical address, even if you're not exposing it to customers, and then you will, get that postcard. It will have some code on it, and you'll have to actually go onto the Google Business site and verify. Right? When I first heard of this, I was like, this is crazy that this is how they do it. But I get it, right? Because what they really want to do is make sure that people aren't grabbing businesses illegitimately or trying to take ownership of businesses that they don't really own, or create fake businesses for fraud, right? And so one of the best ways is make sure that the business owner requests this postcard, they're actually looking for it, they get it in the mail, and then they actually verify their business. Great blog on Hootsuite. Check it out about this process. So it walks you through almost step by step how you would do it in terms of verifying your business. So again, creating your business or claiming your business is the first step, and then verifying your business. And the reason you want to verify your business is once they say, hey, you're the owner. Hey, Ben, you own Scout Collective. Then I can update it, right? I can actually change things, make sure the hours are right, make sure the services are right. I can put photos on, things like that. This is just a screenshot of what the Google My Business portal looks like for us. But it would look the same for you, except for obviously not based in Show Low. And so it's really pretty simple, right? We're not going to go through all the detailed advanced features, but there's how do I create new posts? How do I update my information? This is like analytics about how many people are viewing me, which is kind of cool. I can manage and respond to reviews. People might message me here. I can add photos. I can actually do products if I'm doing more e-commerce. I can change what services I'm offering, things like that, right? So it's pretty straightforward and kind of walks you through a process of completing your profile and then showing. And then once you've done that, which is sort of the basic, just make sure all the basics are there. Then you can sort of play around with, I want to post something, or I want to create something, add a photo or a video or whatever. It's really seems a bit intimidating at first just because the process is weird with the postcard. But once you sort of get over that, it's actually quite easy. Now, of course, Google's reason for wanting you to do that is they want you to do paid advertisement, right? So you certainly don't have to. It should not affect where you show up in the rankings, but obviously they want you to create ads, and use this as a platform for using their, ad platform to drive revenue for them and also to drive revenue for you. And there's nothing wrong with that. It's just don't think that that's tied to, I have to do that for this to be effective, or I have to do that for me to show up. You certainly don't, right? Think of this again as the kind of the yellow pages for the internet. And some basics, real basics, right? Update your listings. This is one I see all the time. Either the owner hasn't claimed the business, and it used to be very simple. You could actually see on Google, it would say something like, do you own this business? But the reality is now they say that even if someone does own it. I don't know why, but that changed in the last 9 months. But make sure you claim your business. That's number one. And then make sure things are linked, the basic information. Link your website, which is going back to foundation number one. Phone number and address, make sure that you have that updated. Opening hours, closing hours, anything related to COVID you can put on here. They're doing a lot around that, right? Has operating procedures changed, and things like that related to COVID. Check often for accuracy. Make sure that things are still how you expect them to be. Drive reviews to Google My Business. So if you have customers that are super happy with your service, ask them to leave a review. There's actually software that you can buy or services that you can buy that can help drive that, text people and then give them a link. If you don't want to spend money, just ask people to review you on Google My Business. Upload images of your business, of your employees, of your products. Upload a video. This is also very wonky. It took us a while to figure this out. It has to be 30 seconds or less, which is kind of nuts. And under 10 megabytes, which means you have to kind of compress it and do some crazy stuff. But we do have a video on ours, just as sort of me talking about the business, but it's very, very limited in terms of what they want you to do. and then think about adding some posts. So posts are, this is a good article on MailChimp, is really 4 categories of posts, like, hey, something's new, right? What's happening, right? An event, hey, this is happening right now. It's a webinar, it's a physical event, it's a farmer's market, it's a pop-up this, that, whatever, right? Special offers, and then product posts. I'm not going to go into any of those in detail, but you certainly can add, additional content to Google My Business. They like to see some fresh content. I think that is part of their algorithm in terms of ranking. It's really their algorithm for everything, actually, is that there's kind of a real person adding content. So don't go crazy, but I think, every few weeks, if you want to add something, I think it makes sense. And then also at the same time, check all of those basics to make sure that they're still up to date. I think that's super, super important. So before I go into social media, let me see if I can answer any questions. Email. Yeah, so question about, is there a best way to contact Google to update address, municipality, rename the street? And after I've tried Google a few times, Google has been very challenging. We had an issue as well. It wasn't related to address, but they were like holding the business, even though I verified it, because I don't know if they thought there was some fraud or something. And I had to go back and forth and email with support, a ton of times. So I would go in that way through Google My Business and try to get support through them. I've also heard people have had luck tweeting them. Not just Google, randomly, but the Google My Business team. So I would think you would, I would focus on sort of trying to contact them through that Google My Business portal, right? So I think that's number one. How is the marker changed to show a picture or logo rather than a common marker? Good question. I actually don't know that, but I could do some research if you shoot me an email. Do you recommend using a business name or your DBB name? I have an e-commerce store, not a brick and mortar store. I don't know, actually. I think if you have an e-commerce store, I would use the name of the store. The business name probably, I guess. So, okay, so keep asking questions. We'll come back to them if we have time. Let's go into social media, though. So now we've covered websites, which obviously was almost all the first session, Google My Business, and then let's talk about social media basics. So this picture I just think is funny because it's my worst nightmare to be a influencer, a husband or boyfriend of an influencer, right? The idea that, your whole life you're spending just taking pictures of this other person. And I think that's the first thing to think about as a small business is social media can be very intimidating. And what we look at can sort of reflect like, oh, do I need to do that, right? Do I need to be this influencer, who puts their whole life on social media? Is that really what social media is about for a business? And I think the answer is, we don't need to be influencers. We're not looking for fame. We're simply looking to drive awareness, right? And we talked a little bit about that last time. I love this picture because I'm like, hey, what if I'm that guy and I want to stand out? We're fellow brothers of baldness there. But how do you stand out in a crowd? Well, one of the ways is you drive awareness through digital marketing. We talked about this last time, so I won't repeat it in any detail. But really, that's the point of all of this foundational stuff, is to drive more awareness to your business, to your brand, to your offerings, to your product, to your story, so that you can drive more revenue, right? At the end of the day, it's not about fame. It's not about followers. It's not about, obviously we want followers because it helps create awareness, but it's not just about followers or sort of living on social media. It's really about how do I use social media in a very targeted way to drive awareness, which drives revenue, right? Which of course makes our businesses grow. So why invest in social media at all? And this is part of a presentation that I did up in Show Low with their local community college and small business organization. And up here, there's people aren't really super invested in social media, or if they are, it's only Facebook. And you'll see as I go through these slides that I kind of have a very particular strong opinion about Facebook. And it was really based on what I was seeing in my community. And so in other places in Arizona and Phoenix, of course, there is a lot more businesses that are using social media. So this, for some of you, might be too basic, but I still think it's useful for us to kind of center ourselves around why we invest in social media. So the first is immediate engagement and response, right? Unlike a website, unlike Google My Business, certainly, unlike other forms of marketing, social media allows us this immediate engagement, right? You post something, people like it, they repost it, they share it. They might direct message you. I mean, in some ways that's like email, but it's much more immediate, right? And allows us to do things that are much more in the moment as a business. Specials. Hey, if I'm a restaurant, I would be posting every day what my specials are, right? If there's a seasonal thing or tax season's coming up and I'm a CPA, or hey, we have a new employee. It's much more immediate, much more responsive to use social media. Helps you tell your unique story, I think, much even more than a website. And why is that? Because on social media, you're posting a few times a week at least. We'll talk about what I think the minimum is. And so you're able to kind of roll your story out in different ways, right? Pictures of you, your employees, your passion, why you got into this, your products. Like you can't do that really in a website. You can certainly write some text and talk about your story, have some images, but there isn't that kind of direct human connection as much, right, as is on social media. Timely marketing, I already sort of said that, but very, very timely. You can immediately release a special, a coupon code, an offer, change, right, whatever. You can experiment with a lot less risk, I think. Social media is cool because you can try different styles of posts, you can try different images, you can try different text, and you can kind of, with analytics, and I'll talk about that, look at the results, and it's not super risky. You're not going to redesign your website every day, right? Oh, I'm going to change this whole thing and test it out. Like, social media allows us to experiment till we hit that stride with our business, right? What do our customers or prospects actually want to see on social media? And it's free. It's even a website costs something, right? So even if you just do it yourself, like we talked about in session one, you still have to pay for hosting, right? Things like that. Social media, really no cost unless you want someone else to manage it. And so it's an opportunity to play around that doesn't really cost you anything. So what platform should we focus on? We don't all need to be TikTok dancers. I don't think we should chase the fad. I don't think that small businesses need to be on every platform unless you really feel like social media is driving your business. And for some businesses, that could be the case. But I think we need to choose a few platforms to engage in, right? And again, I was kind of coming at it from a place up here in a small community where Facebook seems to be kind of the only platform people know about in terms of social media, and trying to show that really Facebook is declining, right? So this is data showing, preferences of teens back to a year ago. Of course, teens influence parents, teens become buyers, right, very quickly, or teens are buyers, and then teens become more kind of consumer buyer, larger pocket wallet share. And you can see Facebook, I mean, holy crap, right? Like that's a declining, that's a declining market. And I think it's going to continue that way, right? And at the same time, we see Instagram and Snapchat, really, really gaining, right? Facebook lost 15 million users since 2017, just in those 2 years. And if you look at, expanding the demographic past just teens into the 30s, again, Facebook is kind of off a cliff where Instagram is going up. So you can kind of see where I'm going with my, what platform you should invest in. But it shouldn't just be Facebook, right? We have the feeling that Instagram should be where you spend most of your time. And of course, you can use Instagram, we'll talk about in a second, to post to Facebook. So you shouldn't abandon Facebook. But if I was a new business, I would definitely be investing 80% or more of my time in Instagram. If you feel like, hey, I built up such huge followers in Facebook and it's amazing, well, of course, then continue there. But I wouldn't lock yourself into Facebook only, because if the data is right, and I think it is, and I could just talk to my 20-year-old kids who are involved in the business with me as well, I think Facebook is on its way down, right? And so I think they definitely need to probably at least get on Instagram. Of course, depending on your business, LinkedIn might be a better social media, and if you're business to business, right? Or Twitter in theory. But I would say for most businesses, this probably fits 80% of the use cases. So social media goals. I think the other thing we always have to do when we have any of this is make sure we set specific goals, right? I'll talk to so many business people, and it's sort of like, I'm doing this because I think I should do it, but I haven't really thought through, how is being on social media, for example, going to connect to a business goal that I have? And again, it's more immediate. So it could be a quarterly goal or a yearly goal or a monthly goal, right? But have an idea. It's not about just, oh, I want to be on social media, I want to have, followers, I want to have likes. How is the social media going to help me gain exposure to a new product, a new service offering, gain, subscription revenue if you're trying to sell subscriptions? Maybe I'm using it to drive reviews to Google My Business, seasonal content, things like that. And then, yeah, how does social media support this business goal, right? Is it just awareness? Is it engagement? Is it information? Like I want to educate people. Is it actually to drive sales? And then how will I measure the results? And you could really take this slide. I actually had it in my first presentation for day one, and I removed it. But you could really say this is the same for all of the digital foundation components, right? Like make sure you're not doing something just for the heck of it. Like make sure you're doing it as it connects to a business goal and that you're measuring the results, right? If I'm going to spend a bunch of time and effort to drive reviews to Google My Business, well, I better know where I started, how many more reviews I have, and did it increase my, my first page result, right? Which then would increase click-throughs and, traffic to the site or whatever. So I think there's a whole kind of make sure you're doing something in the context of goals, right? This one we showed last time, but it really applies to social media, I think even more, because social media is much more immediate and direct with consumers. Who are you communicating to with social media, right? Is it potential customers, current customers, if you're a nonprofit, donors, right? Is it business to business, which would be a different kind of posting strategy? Locals, tourists, what are they looking for? How are they influenced? Things like that. So think about that, just like we said for the website, think about that persona mapping when you're thinking about posting, right? Because if you're just thinking like, I'm posting stuff I like, I mean, that could be cool, but if it doesn't connect with your business audience, whatever that business audience is, right, then it's not going to be as effective. This is just sort of some basic tips for people who are just starting out, right? And maybe many of you guys are already, way down your journey in social media, but if you're not, here's some things we have seen that kind of work well or don't work well, actually. Don't start and go dark. Just like we talked about the kind of burned out building derelict website where people have a blog post from 6 months ago and, the copyright's 2007, or 17 and there's nothing's been updated, right? Social media, I think, is even almost worse because social media is meant to be a continuous kind of update, right? So don't start posting a lot and then, oh, I went on vacation and got busy. And then, 6 months later, I haven't posted, right? That actually, which happens a lot, that really is not good. So if you're going to start, be committed, right? I would say give it 6 months. You're not going to see results. You're not going to build followers in a month. Social media is more of a marathon than a sprint for sure. Commit to posting 2 to 3 times a week. Now, if your business is driven by social media, obviously you're going to have to post way more than that. You're probably going to have to pay someone to work with you on it. But for most businesses that aren't in that continuum where social media is kind of the end all be all, 2 to 3, 4 times a week is probably enough, right? And then slow and steady is the key, right? Don't take it and say, oh, I'm going to post 3 or 4 times in one day, because it's sort of like when you go over and a family member's just come back from vacation and they want you to go through their 100 pictures on their phone. It's like, you know what? Just one picture is good. That would have been enough. I don't need the 100, right? And sometimes we see that, especially up here, as people get real excited about social media, and then it's like a spam. Like I'm going to post 5 times today, and it has the same effect that kind of the relative does, who's overwhelming you with pictures. This, no thanks. Like it's too much, right? So slow and steady is the key. It is a marathon. Be committed to it, and don't just sort of stop and start. How do you get started? Post ideas. And this is where I think it is sometimes challenging. It's like, what do I post? Well, spotlight employees. I love this, right? It's a great way to, on your website, you don't necessarily need to build out pages and pages of, hey, here's Bob and here's Trisha and, whatever. But on social media, it's super easy. Hey, welcome a new employee, or hey, this is Bob and this is what he likes to do, or this is why he likes working here, or whatever. Spotlight a job well done. This is especially effective with, hey, if you're a contractor, you're building things, right? Your customer gives you a great review, you can actually spotlight that, right? But make sure that you're kind of, pushing the successes of your business out on social media. Giveaways, discount codes, specials, people love that. I mean, again, very immediate, so it's short-lived, and it doesn't reach all of your customers, only those that follow you probably. But people love that kind of content, of course. We're all suckers for nature and animals. I mean, we look at our data, what we post, and we're a digital marketing company. We're not super sexy social media brand. And you would be amazed if I post a picture of my schnauzer or a picture of beautiful nature up here in the White Mountains, the amount of engagement we get, right? Much, much higher than, hey, some kind of ad for social media or for, an ad for digital marketing. People love natured animals, so try to work that in. Holidays, this is a strategy people use. I think it can be pretty effective. We've all seen it, right? Like National Donut Day, or take your dog to work day, or there's stuff online that you can kind of leverage or use holidays. Local events, people love local stuff. And then help each other out, repost other businesses, use shared hashtags. I think that works better in maybe smaller circles than it would be like in a big circle where it can actually get diluted. So if a hashtag is so big that's nationwide, it might not help. But like, for example, up here, we did, I think I said last time, a 12 weeks of summer, 12 weeks of local during the 12 weeks of summer. And we used that hashtag, and because it was something that was very unique for here, we were actually the ones kind of owning that tag. But this is a good tip. Generally, I think following the 80-20 rule, where 80% of your content is informative, educational, hilarious, dog pictures, whatever, and 20% is direct advertising, right? I think if you invert it, you end up with people ignoring you, right? Now, it doesn't mean you're like, well, yeah, but the point of this is driving awareness and business and revenue. It's like, yeah, you can be sneaky though, right? I mean, something that's informative about your product or your passion or why the business exists or the process or educational or funny can still be about your business, right? It still keeps your business top of mind for people. It still, pushes them to have awareness, right? Some examples, we pulled this a little bit ago for that webinar we did here, but this is an employee appreciation, great simple example about Scotty. Scotty's doing a great job at Urban Cookies. Love that kind of content. I think makes a lot of sense. This is one where it's an artisan showing her process, right? So again, not an advertisement, not, hey, buy this, it's really about kind of, engaging you in the interesting process. Of course, dogs and beer. I mean, what else do we need? Dogs and beer, which works great. And then this one was for, a nonprofit fundraiser, right? So people like to know that businesses are doing something that's more than just about them. So talked about kind of how to get started, be consistent, start slow. It's a marathon, 2 to 3 times a week at least. Don't overwhelm people with direct advertisement, and kind of keep the content informational, educational, and funny. This is a huge tip. Hopefully most of you know this, but if you have an Instagram account, you need to convert it to a business account. And it's free, super easy. Just go on Instagram and you can follow the process of converting it. And there's no postcard verification or anything crazy like Google. But why, right? And here's the main reasons. One is you get contact buttons. So in your profile, if people click your profile, they'll be able to email you, call you, map, things like that. So there's a lot more kind of driving to action. You can do paid promotions, which we actually have done a bit of, not a ton, but you can't use Instagram ads or promote your content, which we won't cover in this basic class, unless you're a business account. This one, our social media guy added, he's like, I love this, but most people won't ever achieve it. So Instagram doesn't like links generally, but if you have 10,000 followers, we're not anywhere close to that. And most of you probably aren't either. Then you can do links and stories, but again, that's probably only for the very, very most popular accounts. And then this is the one that I think is the most important, which is access to analytics, what they call insights. And it's really data about how effective your content is, right? So how many more people did you reach? How many new followers did you get? What is their age demographic? What is their gender breakdown? What cities are they in? What kind of content are they interacting with? So if you're experimenting, which we said social media is a great experimentation platform, and I'm putting up lots of nature pictures, are those getting high interactions? Or my stories, are people abandoning my stories halfway through, right? We're not really gonna have time today to talk about stories, but all this data, super, super useful in terms of fine tuning your approach to social media. Facebook also has similar kind of analytics. So I just think it's important if you're going to be on social media as a business that you measure the effectiveness of that, you're checking in on it, and you really understand, the data. And you can't have that unless you convert your account to a business account. One other thing about Instagram, just as a free tip, is, and again, maybe you guys all know this, folks up here don't, you really can only put a website here as a call to action. So when you post on Instagram, there is no links. You can't click a link, hey, go to my website, right? You have to say something like link in bio, which I've realized is not always clear to people. But what link in bio means is this is, bio. If people click on your little badge, then they will get some information about you, right? This one happens to be an email. They can contact me, whatever. But usually you can only put one link in there. So you could just have scoutcollective.com as your website, right? Or what you see people doing more and more of is kind of creating like link trees. And this is free from a company called Linktree. There's other ones out there. And if you pay for it, you can make it more sexy, whatever, but free is cool. And so when we drive content, we'll maybe have a blog post, here, and it will say, hey, check out our link in bio. People come here and then they see these various links. If they click here, they're actually redirected to our website. If they click here, they would be registered for the class or the webinar we just had on Tuesday, right? So this is a way of sort of getting around the Instagram limitation of linking so that you're not just sending people generically to your website. So, again, if you're savvy in social media, that a lot of people don't, but it's a great way to sort of expand the opportunity to direct people to specific pages or specific parts of your site versus just having them generically go. How to get followers. We always talk about this when people just start out on Instagram or Facebook. It can be a bit, you feel like you're talking to yourself, right? Or it's like, hey, thanks mom for following me. Or, your friends or whatever. But really, it is a marathon. It takes a while to build followers unless somehow your content goes viral or, you're the hottest business in town. But how do you get followers? Follow other accounts. Don't go crazy here. I do think there's a bit of a ratio. You'll see people that'll like have 200 followers, but they're following like 2,000 accounts. The reality is those followers are probably not that engaged. People are just following back, but not really that engaged. There is something about quality of followers. So don't just follow other accounts, kind of spammy. Follow other accounts in your community, in your business space, right? Whatever. Post often and consistently. As we said, consistency is key here. Mix up your content, try stories. People love videos. Super easy to post videos on Instagram. There's some limitations on where you can put them and links and things like that, but people love short videos. Hashtags, super important, which I won't have time to talk about today. Giveaways, we got a lot of followers through giveaways, so we wanted to support the community up here. We gave away, $50 every week for 12 weeks in gift cards to local businesses, got a ton of followers. What's interesting about that is those people have stuck around, actually. I was a little worried when that ended that, hey, people would unfollow, not engage, but they seem to be engaging. And then, you can promote your social media all over the place, on your business cards, on your website. Definitely should be on your website at the bottom of every page. But, direct people to social media so that they can follow you and find information. In the last few minutes, I want to talk about automation and efficiency. So we all have businesses to run. Nobody wants to make social media their entire life. So how do we get the most out of social media with the limited amount of effort, right? It's sort of the lazy man's approach, which I'm all about that. Number one is have a calendar, right? So we use Google Calendar. You could also use Trello, both great free tools. Trello is not just for social media, and obviously Google Calendar isn't either, but they're kind of, great to lay out posting schedules, but plan in advance, right? So this was back a screenshot I took in September, but of what we were posting, 2 or 3 times a week across the month. Now, doesn't mean that you can't, hey, I'm out, I see a sunset, I want to post it, right? Or I got a great review and, oh no, now it's not on the calendar. But what this helps you do as a business owner is not be constantly have that anxiety of I need to post, what am I going to post? Or, oh man, a whole week's gone by, which we all have that experience, right? It's like so much has happened and I haven't posted for a week. Keeps you on track, right? And in theory, we'll talk about how you could automate this. You could actually post all of these in one day and then schedule them to come out throughout the month, which is, if you do that, you're kind of the baller of social media. But that's really the goal, right? Is plan it out and then maybe post in batches so that you're actually not even having to spend that much time during the month. So get something to schedule out your posts. And then we think you should do kind of a 2-for-1 post, right? So we like this idea of Facebook Creator Studio, which allows us to both schedule posts and also post to Facebook at the same time. In the last slide of this deck, there's a link to a video that we have that's maybe 10 minutes long that shows you hands-on how to do this. So I won't have time to do it today. But and Facebook Studio is available, Creator Studio, to anybody. but allows you to basically both schedule your posts. So I can set a schedule time, which means I could on Sunday I could schedule my posts for the entire week or even the entire month, right? And they won't show up until that time. And then I can also at the same time post to Facebook, right? So that's sort of the dual purpose here. And I was confusing what slide I can do it on, but it's going to post both to Instagram and to Facebook. Now, is that perfect? No, because there's some functionality that doesn't work on Facebook, and but I think if you're going to go double down on Instagram, but you still want to have something out there on Facebook, both for your followers on Facebook, even if you don't have a lot, but also for search engines to look at, things like that. This allows you that 2 for 1, right? So drive the content from Instagram into Facebook and then also schedule it. And those two, in addition to the calendar, I think really help you be much more efficient with your posting. And then create a content library, last slide on social media, which is you can reuse content, right? And as you're out and about and you're taking pictures of your business, your employees, nature, your dogs, your cats, store those somewhere, right? We use a cloud OneDrive, it comes with Microsoft Office. You could use Dropbox. You could just put it on your computer. You could put it on your phone actually even. But so you're not always searching for content, and you're actually able to kind of reuse content in some cases, maybe seasonally, things like that. That it's anything you can do to make it less anxiety and kind of what do I have to do, what I have to post is going to be super, super helpful. Okay, so in closing, how do we go beyond the foundation? There's a lot of other stuff, right, that we could do. Once we have that foundation in place, we could talk about search engine optimization, which is how do I show up higher on search, right? How do I pay for search? So as we said, Google wants to take your money for ads. So how do we optimize that? How do I add additional social networks? LinkedIn, Twitter, Pinterest, Snapchat, if you want. Email marketing, which I think is a very underrated marketing investment, right? But super powerful. Reputation management, which is all about, how do you reply and manage your reviews right? On Yelp or on Google, make sure, hey, people are responding. Paid advertisement across all social medias, e-commerce, et cetera. So all that is certainly advanced, but I would say and leave you with kind of this image. If you don't have the foundation in place, it would sort of be like buying this house. I don't think this house is in Arizona, and then deciding, hey, I'm going to add this awesome master suite to it, right? Like I'm going to spend a lot of money, over here building out this kind of dope, master suite, and my whole house is crumbling. So what I would say is start with the foundation, right? Make sure this is in place, not mastered. You don't have to go everywhere, do everything that all these 3 things offer, but get the basics in place, and then go into expansion. So key takeaways: claim your business. Sorry, I didn't mean to go ahead. Claim your business or set it up on Google My Business. Add the basics and expand as you feel comfortable. So again, Google My Business has lots of functionality, but just make sure the basics are right. Get on Instagram. You can see my bias. No, I'm not. Even though it's ironic, Instagram's owned by Facebook, but not sponsored by Instagram or anything. I just think that's kind of where we should be. Automate and schedule to save you time and effort. Do that calendaring. Make sure you schedule your posts so you're not doing them every day, and then actually post consistently, and then get the digital foundations right before you go beyond it. Just as a takeaway, the recording will be posted on the AZA, Arizona Commerce site. Follow us. Hey, see, I'm asking you guys to follow us on Instagram. One of the reasons you might want to follow us on Instagram, besides we post interesting stuff and dog pictures sometimes, is we are going to do a more intermediate social media session early December, where we're going to focus a bit more on how do you use design tools like Canva, how do you take advantage of video, things like that. So if you're really starting out in social media and you're like, I want to learn more, follow us on Instagram. You'll see we'll post some stuff about this upcoming webinar in a few weeks. And of course, you can reach out to us if you need help. We'll do some Q&As, but just so you know where to find this in the PowerPoint that gets sent out. If you want to watch my social media guy, who happens to be my son, and I go through the Facebook creator demo, so you can see exactly how you post and schedule and do the 2-for-1 posting with Instagram and Facebook. I think it's about a 10-minute video. You can find it here and check it out, which I think a lot of folks have watched and feel like it's pretty useful. So, all right, so now we can do some Q&As. All right. So another question about Google My Business. Do we have more than one Google My Business? You have more than one Google My Business listed for the same address? Ooh, I think Google would not like that, but I think it would have to be something you would take up with them and then probably prove. Like I had to send my incorporation documents when I had some issues with them thinking maybe we weren't legitimate because we didn't have a physical address. I think physical address is good that you have that, but the fact that you have 3 separate businesses, they could probably think of that as a, pseudo scammy thing. And so it really would depend on the documentation that you could probably provide them around, hey, these are actually all incorporated separately, or they're really they all drive to the same business, but we have 3 different websites, or whatever the situation is. So potentially, Ruth, you could, but my guess is I almost guarantee that they'll flag you, and you'll have to have a discussion with them. And then Ruth had another good question. My customers are older than 35. Me too. I'm older than 35. I mean, I think Facebook is still strong there. I do think it's declining, even for those customers, right? So I still think beyond Facebook, if you have customer demographics, particularly that skew 40, 50, 60, Facebook is still pretty much king there. What I would say, I didn't say this, but I should have, please don't use Facebook as a website. I have a post on our website about why that makes no sense at all, for lots of reasons. So which we see that up here a lot in Sholo, if Facebook is not a website is a website. But yeah, I think if you have an skewed older demographic, or middle age, I shouldn't say older, I'm in that demographic, then I think Facebook probably makes sense. But you could also, I think you could still, play around with Instagram just to make sure you have a presence there, even if you're not posting that much, just to, catch those younger folks, right? What about links and regular posts? I don't know exactly what that means. Oh, so let's start with your first question. Is our posts what you're calling stories? And the answer is no, right? So Instagram, there's 2 different things. Posts are the pictures that show up in our feed. And you can post one picture. Typically people post one picture and then captions, and then they have hashtags. And again, we'll cover this more in that December session. Stories show up at the top, and they're like little badges on your phone if you have the Instagram app. And you click on them, and they're typically more videos. They have kind of frames. You can click through them, and people mostly put videos. You don't have to, though. You can actually put other static content. But the difference is stories disappear. So they don't live forever, actually, right? After somebody's watched it for a day, whatever, it's gone. So it's almost like hyper immediate. We already talked about social media being immediate. Posts live forever. Like if you posted something back in August, and it'll still be on the site, right? Or even August last year, it'll still be on Instagram. But stories are like hyper immediate, and I think they have some value to businesses because it's almost like a 2-for-1. Again, you're showing up here in this other part of Instagram, and you're also showing up in the feed, which is where the posts are. So that's the difference. Totally different, for sure. And you can't do links in either. So the answer is no linking in either, actually, unfortunately, on Instagram. And the reason for that is just, not that you want the history, but Instagram really started as photo sharing and really wanted to be about image rich, not text rich. And they also want to keep you on the site, or the app, really the app. Nobody uses Instagram on a site typically. You can, but they want to keep you in the app. So they don't do linking. And that's one of the mistakes I see people doing a lot, is they'll put links in there, and then it's like, well, nobody's going to click on them. You can't click on them, actually. And no one's going to like copy it down unless it's a very simple link. Giveaways, you recommend King Sumo? Yeah, there's a lot of giveaway things there. I mean, for us, we didn't use anybody, right? We just did. I think we're in a unique community, so we were wanting to do 2 things, right? We were spotlighting small businesses that a lot of people knew, or tourists knew, or locals knew, and we were just buying gift cards and giving them away. And then we would do a drawing, and do silly drawings where I was drawing things out of a hat, or doing crazy stuff. And that was fun too. And then we post the drawing live in a story, because it's again a video, short term. So I mean, if you really want to go big, there's lots of companies out there that you can use, will cost you money to to big giveaways. But I would just be curious, I would be careful about the quality of followers, right? You always want to make sure that whatever followers you're getting are in your local community, are the people that you're after. They're not just after the giveaway, that they're actually, now for us, did everyone who followed us, are they into digital marketing? Probably not, but they're at least local, right? And in our community, word of mouth is huge. So getting our name out there was important. So I would just be a little cautious about spending too much money and then getting a bunch of followers that don't engage. And that's why the analytics are so important, or the data is so important to understand engagement rates. So I get calls from Google optimizers every day. I ignore them. I have control of Google My Business. Peggy, good question. Yeah. People want to sell us stuff all the time. I mean, the answer is I don't know, right? I think if your business is coming up pretty high in your category, and really we learned yesterday, nobody goes past the first page typically for businesses. If it's coming up pretty high, then you shouldn't have to do anything, right? If it's not showing up at all, so let's just pretend, Peggy, you're a CPA in Gilbert. I have no idea. And I search CPAs and I'm in Gilbert, and you don't come up in Google My Business, then there probably is something you should do, right? But if you're showing up and you're getting good interaction, then yeah, there's nothing else you would need to pay anybody to do in terms of optimization. I think I hit all of them, unless I missed any in the other chat. Oh, so here's some other ones. I keep going, I guess, and stop me if I need to, Robert. Regarding websites for Monday, I could generally only find names with hyphens. I could only find a .org. Is .org okay for profit? As a creative enterprise is using my name better than a hyphen. Yeah, I'm not a big fan of hyphens because I just think it's hard for people to remember hyphens. .org used to be very strict about just nonprofits. I think in most people's minds it still is. So there's .biz, there's like us, we did .digital because I really wanted Scout Collective, and I should have done my legwork and seen it. Well, I knew that the domain wasn't available, but and that's okay. We also have scoutcollectivedigital.com, so I have both. But yeah, I mean, I would probably avoid .org if you're not really a nonprofit, because it could seem a bit shady. And yeah, so I think that's that would be my thought there. And I think I hit all the other, let me see. How do you get your business to show up on this? So I don't know if you mean on Google My Business, how do you get your business to show up? But it's going through that process, right? Claiming the business, updating the business, and driving reviews. And so Google uses an algorithm to look at that. So anyway, last question. Thanks, guys, for the 2 days. It was fun. Great questions. Reach out to us as always if you need help. I noticed a few of you did already reach out to me about looking at your websites. I have those requests, and I'll get back to you early next week for sure.
Excellent. Thank you, Ben. That was a great session. Thanks to all the participants that brought up questions. They were great questions. We appreciate the time for Tuesday and today, Thursday, this 2-part series. Again, great content in both, so we appreciate it very much. As we wrap up today, just want to remind everybody to have a great weekend, a safe weekend, and to join us on Tuesday morning at 9 a.m. for our next bootcamp session. Excuse me. With that in mind, everybody have a great day, and we will see you on Tuesday. Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.